I would like to begin by thanking the Landscape Architecture Foundation and Penn Design for the invitation. In 1966, the authors of the Declaration of Concern in creating the Landscape Architecture Foundation claimed they were brought together by a highly disturbing environmental crisis. They issued a call to arms for the profession of landscape architecture, and the challenge was taken. In Seattle, Lawrence Halpern used the interstate air rights to create an animated freeway park. While Richard Haag thinned the forest of industrial archaeology to reclaim the shores of Lake Union. The declaration was issued at a time of rising environmental consciousness. Rachel Carson's 1962 Silent Spring documented an assault on nature through the lens of jet pesticides. Its modern-day equivalent, This Changes Everything, by Naomi Klein, demands a Marshall Plan for the Earth as she poses capitalism against climate change. For us, in a world that is increasingly divided, it is landscape architecture that arguably remains the most powerful tool to marry social and environmental justice. It is landscape architecture that has the capacity to address the most pressing and fundamental problems facing the world today, amongst which are climate change, water and food security, as evidenced here in 2013 by 16,000 dead pigs in the Huangfu River, a source of Shanghai's drinking water, always blamed on agriculture mismanagement. We must address deforestation from logging, as well as from new threats, such as the oil sands area of Fort McMurray, Alberta. These are no longer issues that should be left solely to engineers, but need to be taken up by landscape architects. Every crisis presents an opportunity for the landscape architect to hybridize programs and innovate across scales. Seen and unseen public infrastructure, road and energy networks need immediate upgrading and the reconquering of commissions. The Flint water crisis is yielding hard lessons in science and ethics, while the enormity of the immigrant crisis in Europe will require rethinking of settlements and territories. Unchecked urbanization in the developing world, here the indiscriminate filling of lowlands in Dhaka, demands innovative wetland urbanism. All these challenges lead to a new array of demanding programs and projects for the landscape architect. In addition to beauty and function, there's the persuasive political agency of well-designed territories that intelligently work across scales and ecologies. Landscape architecture involves systemic thinking, concerned with ecologies of dynamic change, with adaptability, resilience, and flexibility, while at the same time giving necessary attention for the concrete and its materiality. My own design research work on a revised plan for the Mekong Delta 2030, Vision to 2050, sees climate change as an opportunity to realign development with the territory's dynamics. The plan accentuates the agroecological identity, particularly in light of global food security. It stresses water-based infrastructure and recommends the canceling of planned World Bank and Asian Development Bank financed roads that will be inundated. New settlement morphologies work with the flows of the delta. The plan reestablishes the region's core identity, counterbalances the homogeneity of the region's urbanism, and rearticulates productive landscapes through an interplay of microtopographies, soil qualities, and fresh and saltwater gradients. Massive mangrove afforestation of the coastal area will mitigate sea level rise. We live in remarkably turbulent and critical times that require radical system change, politically, socioculturally, economically, and spatially. Status quo is quite simply unsustainable for humanity, for planet Earth, for future generations of both. We are now at a precipice, at a critical tipping point, standing before the wholesale destruction of the planet. The never-ending, interlinked, and adaptive cycles of growth, accumulation, restructuring, and renewal occur in human and natural ecologies of nested sets of scales and timeframes. Landscape architecture must become the essential game changer in terms not only of reshaping the Earth's ecological systems in practice, but in transforming the fundamental habitation of the planet through broader systemic thinking. The world is marching towards catastrophe, and landscape architecture has a responsibility. It must be at the core of a categorical shift. Climate change is not pseudoscience. Compromised summit declarations do not have a forceful impact. Landscape architecture must set the boundaries for policymakers and orient social movements. Bold and inspired projects can lead policy. Meanwhile, the public context in the global north requires careful yet bold re-editing and recalibrating, because here the process of development is one that transforms, optimizes, and corrects. The process is not primarily concerned with accommodating massive demographic, social, and economic growth in new urban areas. As you have seen already in Henri Baba's presentation, Pershing Square in downtown LA has been a site of such re-editing. New hybrid ecologies must create innovative synergies between city and nature, consumptive and productive space, impermeable and porous surfaces, the urban and the rural. At the same time, LA's homeless emergency needs to be addressed. It can't be moved elsewhere. The renewed Pershing Square space is brought back to the ground level, a democratic space for all Angelenos, where flexibility in programming includes kiosks, which could initially contain NGO-sponsored homeless support facilities. Back in the global south, where urbanization, industrialization, and migration gallop ahead, stabilizing natural ecologies must take place simultaneously with massive development. Robust green and blue systems can structure territories and create frames for adaptive landscapes. Resilience must be built into territories and cities by designing an overlap of natural and built ecologies. An entry for the Hiep Phuc urban port design competition in Ho Chi Minh City juxtaposed an export processing zone with the everyday tissues of the city, all embedded in a tidal mangrove estuary. Despite the impassioned plea of our colleagues 50 years ago, landscape architects have mostly been peripheral to large environmental agendas. In Western Europe, the field is at its most progressive, with landscape architects occasionally leading major urban transformation projects and participating in robust landscape infrastructure projects. The American landscape architect must more proactively create larger opportunities for design of the environment beyond the piecemeal and the ad hoc, and there must be deep commitment, political will, for the continued expansion of the public realm. Clients must be cultivated, and the role of the landscape architect must be properly understood and valued at national, regional, city, and local levels. Immense opportunity and obligation await the American architect in particular. Acclaimed photographer Matt Black has documented the geographies of poverty in California's Central Valley, which are representative of increasing civic discord across the nation's cities and the effects of recent climate-related extremes like prolonged heat waves, droughts, floods, and wildfires, which reveal the significant vulnerability and exposure of human and natural ecosystems. Taken together, this is a renewed wake-up call, and landscape architecture is urgently needed to create equitable and truly democratic public realms and implement risk mitigation strategies. Landscape architecture has the ability, and indeed responsibility, to ground projects to their specificity, their workings, secret logics, opportunities, and inherent dangers. The green wave and corresponding performance-driven obsessions must not be a panacea. I end with a project in Beveren North, Belgium, a highly contested site of ecology, engineering, and economy. The territory suffers consequences of regulations by the European community and trade-offs between eco-preservationists and the land-hungry drive of Antwerp's Port Authority and industrialists. Fieldwork unveils specific geologies and geographies of context and the messiness and contested realities of the everyday. Investigations into the existing logics of landscapes, cultural appropriations of a territory, social formation, and codifications of spaces require both diachronic and synchronic perspectives. On-site interpretive mapping can go far beyond the descriptive and become a form of critical realism, critical in selecting what to map and the base for insights through the discovery of unspoken and unwritten realities gained from haptic and experience senses. The project redefines 3 landscapes and 3 infrastructures for the constructive interplay between contradictory landscapes. Conforming to the assignment of nature compensation, a large part of the area was depoldered, and the manipulation of water levels and various connections, both permanent and temporary, ensured a rich variety of vegetation, habitats, and experiences of the landscape. Landscape architecture is the operative instrument for engaged resistance to relentless homogenization, globalization, and flattening out of cultures and places. Projects must be contextually embedded geographically, geologically, and culturally. Landscape architecture is indeed an ever more urgent necessity. It is simultaneously necessary for landscape architecture to reclaim its position as a key discipline able to uniquely synthesize ecological systems, scientific data, engineering methods, social practices, and cultural values, and to integrate them all into design of the built environment. Bold visions must combine the tangible and the imaginary to provoke conversations that promise social equity and environmental justice, as well as manifest landscape's transformative power. It is time, once again, to make a strong call to arms to the profession to more actively engage with the world and to prove that landscape architecture is indeed a necessity. The political agency of the profession must be forcibly reactivated, and the power of landscape architecture engaged to be the game changer in reshaping ecological systems and transforming forms of living. Thank you.